Now today I thought I'd do something a bit different. I've done the best stance for every legend, the best skin for every weapon, the best move of every weapon, and the best sig on every legend. But now it's time for the best legend for every weapon. Keep in mind that this is my opinion, and depending on what elo you're in and when you're viewing this video, your opinions may vary. The only rule I have for this video is no repeat legends, so if I'm using Nyx as the best blasters, for example, she can't also be the best Scythe and vice versa. I will, however, make a small note about other equally viable options, though. Starting off with the newest weapon, out of the only two options it has to be Priya. Priya goes down as one of the most overpowered legends on release, and although Chakram isn't that strong at the moment, Priya still gets a relatively decent amount of play in the pro scene. This could all change when legend number 67 is released, but for now, Ransom is definitely not taking the top spot away from Priya. Orb has been on the rise in the current meta, so I have a feeling you'll be seeing a lot more of it soon. This could be swayed by Amit's recent performances, but I think Petra is the best Orb legend currently. Gauntlets are also in a really good spot at the moment, and there isn't a single signature on either of her weapons I'd consider bad. Petra might even be one of the best legends in the game right now, at least in my opinion. I actually changed my mind on Bow as I originally chose Diana, but after seeing how much representation Zerial is getting in recent tournaments, both for 1s and 2s, I couldn't not pick them. Like I said, Gauntlets are in a really great spot, so picking any Gauntlets legend is a no-brainer at the moment, and Bow's option is no different. This is definitely another legend on the come-up at the moment. Now for Spear, I went with Wu Shang as he too gets an insane amount of representation at the top, in both game modes but particularly in 2s. Spear does exceptionally well at controlling the pace, and paired with fast signatures and his trusty gauntlets, Wu Shang is the king at racking up damage. It's hard not to put Wu Shang as the best Spear legend, but an honorable mention would be Brynn. Speaking of Brynn, I chose her as my pick for the best Axe legend. Don't get me wrong, her Spear is also amazing and has really good signatures that pack a punch and are hard to react to. Brynn is another reliable pick in both 1v1s and 2v2s, and I'd also consider relatively easy to pick up and even easier to do well with. You can't go wrong with Brynn and either of her weapons in general. The other Axe legend I considered was Olgrim, but I was saving him for Lance. Olgrim is a tank that just never seems to die no matter how deep in red he is. And despite catching nerfs on pretty much every single signature, remains the single most picked legend by Valhallans, and usually paired with Wu Shang, they are the most meta pick possible for 2s. It doesn't seem to matter how many times this legend gets nerfed. Olgrim seems to always remain at the top and is undoubtedly the best Lance legend in the game. Now for canon, there's actually no definitive best. As I'm sure most of you will agree, 1s and 2s are completely separate game modes each with their own meta. But overall I went with 7 as I think she's on the rise as a sleeper pick. And this is due to seeing quite a few high-level players picking her up, and she does have the best overall win rate currently. Onyx is still a very solid pick, and you'll most likely see her dominating in 2s tournaments, so I would say it's very even between the two. You really can't go wrong with any Hammer legend, but realistically, who do you see the most? That's right, it's Taros. It's no secret how good Taros is, as every pro seems to have a pocket Taros that they've used at some point, and I don't blame them. You could also make an argument for Cassidy, but blasters are no longer at the top, and it would be purely because of her high dex, and since dex will be altered soon, I figured that might change. I will, however, pick Cassidy as the best blasters legend, not only because of her high dex, as that would contradict myself, but because of her signature true combos on both weapons, and because her hammer is also arguably one of the strongest too, like I said. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what will happen to her deck-specific true combos though, only time will tell. She isn't as dominant as she once was in tournament, but she's only one balance patch away from being at the top again. You could also make an argument for Diana, who fell short as the runner-up on both of her weapons. Now for Gauntlets, like I said earlier in the video, you could make an argument for literally any of them, as Gauntlets in itself is a really strong pick, but for the sake of the video I went with Mordex for obvious reasons. Mordex has two of the best weapons in the meta right now, and no shortage of pro players showing exactly why that is the case. His signatures are for the most part really good, and having active input will always give you a slight edge over the competition. Since I can't pick Mordex again, I chose Mirage as the best Scythe legend. If there's any other Scythe legend who is truly established in the esports scene, it's Mirage. Mirage has two very solid weapons, and Spear obviously making her pretty accessible, even to those who don't have a Scythe background. Her signatures are deceivingly fast, and in some cases, quite unreactable, so I consider her a pretty solid legend to pick up. Now for Greatsword, I personally would recommend you to simply not play any of them, but to be nice, I'll just say Jaehyun. He's been consistently top tier for most of his existence, and what makes him work really well is that Sword picks up the slack for what Greatsword can't do, which is KO consistently. Not to mention, he has some of the most annoying and hard to deal with signatures in the game, and for a Greatsword legend, he's probably also the easiest to play. Greatsword is in a bad spot right now, and honestly, I kinda hope it stays that way, but if you are going to play anyone, your choices are most likely Jaehyun or Magyar. Now for battle boots, kinda like Greatsword and Chakram, they sorta got it right the first time, and that's definitely no different with Teska. I hate repeating myself, but there are no wrong choices when it comes to Gauntlets legends, and when you have signatures like Teska's, that's just the cherry on the top. Teska also benefits from signature true combos and is another legend on the rise in the pro scene. I personally think you'll have to watch out for this legend in the near future. For Katars, I have to go with my beloved Asuri. Her signatures are just too good and complement her weapons perfectly, and there's no better example of this than Katars' neutral sig. With the grounded dodge changes potentially graduating out of the experimental queue in the near future, Katars are going to be in an amazing spot, so there's no better time to pick her up. Sword has its issues, but remains a solid way to confirm KOs, which is arguably Katars' biggest weakness. So all in all, Asuri is a very good pick and always has been. For Sword, you have quite a few options, but since I can't use repeats, I'll go with Bodvar. Bodvar has always been a safe pick since the dawn of time, and that is still true to this day. He has two very reliable weapons, easy to understand signatures that work really well with his weapons, and a pretty decent stat spread to go along with them. Bodvar has seen his fair share of tournament play as one of the legends I see the most in the diamond-ranked queue. Despite Sword not being at the forefront of the meta currently, you can't go wrong with picking Bodvar. I hope this doesn't discourage you from playing who you like, because at the end of the day, fun should be your main priority. This is more just a list for people who want to try out a new weapon and don't know who to decide on, and I hope it helps in that regard. But please don't think that you have to play anyone I mentioned if you don't like them. Brawlhalla is a very balanced game, and you can get to any rank you desire with any of the 60+ legends. As always, thank you for watching, and if you made it to the end, comment Rainbow Sparkle so I know you're a real one. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.